doesn't love a V8 burbling away? In this episode we meet a great fella who's come all the way from New England to Old England with a big Mopar addiction.
It's not a competition for how many. I just can't stop buying them. You know, it's become a little bit of an obsession. I'm kind of learning to slow down, only because the wallet's telling me to. But yeah, it's good. I mean, it's they make us smile, don't they? You know, smiles per miles and all that sort of jazz. But it's just, you know. Even just stationary when they're not running and you don't get that V8 rumble, you know, they're just beautiful bits of metal, whatever you want to call it. You know, they're just beautiful, you know. And yeah, I can't stop myself really.
Rick Ster is from Boston, Massachusetts, known as Beantown to some and the heart of an area known as New England. A young and impressionable Rick came to Old England in 1994 after being stationed at RAF Mildenhall, just down the road from the barn where he stores his Mopar hoard nowadays. That's because Rick was a member of the United States Air Force. Rick worked on the USAF helicopters and served on tours of duty during the First Iraq War. I know this area well myself. My teenage stomping ground was a little further down the road than Mildenhall, and I knew a few servicemen who had settled in the eastern area of the UK after meeting local girls. Many of these servicemen would drive American cars, which always thrilled me, and I guess Rick is the perfect example of that, although he decided to stay with us Brits even after a divorce, which is far less common.
I try to go home every now and then, and I often toy with the idea of living in America again. I'm not sure I could do it. I just it's such a culture shock now. I don't know how the medical system works. I don't know anything about that tax system. I mean, I was 18 years old. I went from straight into the military, and I don't have any experience as an adult living in America. I was under Uncle Sam's wing. I'm here now, and this is home. This is home. I'm an honorary Brit. I'm a septic tank, I'm a colonial cousin, whichever you like, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So this is my 69 Chrysler 300. This is Sinister, as I name it. A lot of guys know her as Sinister. She's a 440, and she's bucket seats with the console shift from the factory, which is quite a rare option on a 300, which is why I kind of fell in love with it when I saw it. And now I bought this one from Texas. Small story, interesting again with this one. I did my basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. So this car was listed on Facebook in San Antonio, Texas. But it turns out that the kid that owned it, it was his high school car, spoiled or what, you know what I mean? He lived on base, on Lackland Air Force Base, and he was actually an Air Force cadet, so he was going to be, you know, join the Air Force when he got a little older and that, finished school. But so I was happy to send money, but his dad was actually a full bird colonel off of Lackland Air Force Base. He was a chaplain. If you can't trust to send money to a chaplain, who can you trust to send money to? So yeah, I was very happy with it. But when the car got here, she was a bit rotten. And a good friend of mine, Paul Newton, up in Norfolk, who did a fantastic job. He had the car quite a while and had it to bits and just stripped it underneath and did all the metal work. And my real good friend, John Sturman, did lots of work in the resurrection, the mechanical and everything else. So I owe John a huge debt of gratitude for what he's done to the car. And then Obviously this is new. I had a fire which kind of damaged the bonnet, and I put the scoop on it. The scoop sort of obviously needs filling and painting and all that. She's a bit of a state at the moment, but some people like it, some people don't. But you know, it's horses for courses, and it's down to your taste at the end of the day what you want to do with your car, really. It's 440. We put some Stealth Alley heads on it. 850 Holly secondary vac. Edelbrock Performer intake. 484 cam. So it's kind of a little bit nippy. She's not like, you know, when I wouldn't say she's fast, because you say fast, and the guys that I have fast cars will be like, oh yeah, that's fast, right? Okay. It's not fast, but it's for a big girl, she pulls herself quite well.
Sinister's mean styling and upgrades like the hood scoop always grab attention at meets and shows, and this has led to the grand old lady making an appearance for a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. Our veteran Rick definitely likes cars that have an evil presence about them.
This is a 1970 Dodge Coronet, originally a 318 car. She's currently a 360, just a small block upgrade. Yeah, this car was bought here in the UK. There was a gentleman who was emigrating that wanted some money to fund his emigration down in London, and picked it up quite cheap. Spent a fortune on it in the meantime, but it's quite rough looking, ratty looking, you know, and even down to the corrosion here. I mean, I don't think I'd change that. I think it's ratty, and I like it ratty. People have said to me, I mean, I thought about having it all repainted and, you know, have it done properly. And people say to me, why don't you paint that car? But they're probably like the minority. And most people have said to me, never, ever paint that car. And I thought, so it's cheaper to never paint it. So I'm going to go with that one. But yeah, it's ratty. It's obnoxious. It's a bit loud. And for that reason, I like to call it ASBO, which is obviously an antisocial behaviour order if you're in bad with the police here in the UK. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the best thing about a 70 Coronet are these hips. I mean, these hips, you know, if you can see very similar where they were going with its cousin, which is obviously the Charger. You know, you can see very much the sort of, obviously the Charger's C-pillar comes more exaggerated than that, but this is just, that's a pretty bit of metal work. The design's really nice.
ASBO was my own personal favourite of Rick's collection. It's a mean looking car anyway, the 70 Coronet. I love that front end. In that sort of matte black, it looked even more evil, meaner, harder as a car. And part of me thinks maybe I could have done something similar with my Charger. I welded up all the holes in the floor pans and the trunk, and then, you know, rattle canned it like a dark grey or even another matte black. And, you know, what I think there is that I think I've done the correct thing. I know my car was so far gone, I would have forever been, you know, tinkering with it to try and get it to different shows. I'll do an update on my car soon. Progress has been made, and I want to thank my sponsor Year One Muscle Car Parts for helping me. If you use the promo code TALK, you can qualify for up to 30% off a range of their stock. Just go to year1.com. This offer will only be available for a limited time. Talking about parts, ASBO definitely still needed a dozen or so when Rick let her go a few months after I filmed her, but I'm told the new owner was talking about keeping her ratty and mean looking, so that pleases me. Rick's collection has always evolved over time because he finds it difficult to limit himself.
it's an addiction. It really is, because no sooner than you've got the last car in that you thought would be the last one, you start seeing about another one, and your brain starts setting into thinking about ways to get this car. You start losing sleep. you think, how can I make this happen to get one more home, you know? And yeah, it's problematic really, because it's come to a point now where I just need to stop buying and just sort of enjoy what I have, you know, which I do. You know, I walk into the barn, and to see these cars all sat there and that, and to think they're mine, not from a greedy perspective, but it gives me a really nice feeling just for them to sit there statically, just to look at them and to admire. They're time capsules. Each and every one of these cars has got a story to tell, you know. God knows what that story is, but every single car has got an individual story. It's come from an individual state, different place, or multiple states, and you think to yourself, I'm lucky. These are here, they're mine, and I just feel really, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that, you know, I'm able to have them. This is the 67 Coronet RT, which is just come back from paint a few months ago now, but we're just waiting to get the engine finished off on it and get it back to seeing some road really. It's been bare metalled, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it on the road. It's got a 484 cam and 440 car, 67 RT, proper HP original engine and that. So it's yeah, it was my first car. The history on this car is quite interesting. It came from my hometown, and my mother went to school with a guy 2 doors up. Well, I went to school with his son. Well, his son told me, or I saw it on his Facebook account, that he was selling or redoing this car, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I knew it was a Mopar, but I wasn't too savvy on them at that point. And I thought, oh, what's he doing with that car? What is that? So I started messaging him and that, and it turns out that his dad's best friend had just died, and he was redoing the car. Well, of course, I bought the car off of him, and to make a long story short, and he gave it a lick of paint, so it was silver. And the silver wasn't really, he painted it, but he didn't do like a very great job with it. So it was kind of a case of having to redo it to sort of to where it is now, where I'm happy with. So yeah, she's gone back to bare metal. It didn't set out to have a car from my hometown, but yeah, I'm sure the previous owner would be chuffed to see it as it sits now, because she had some issues when she first come to us.
This colour is wonderful. I mean, looking at it, it's, look, you know.
It's actually a 2018 Range Rover colour. So it's the right colour. It's a modern colour, and these modern colours really pop in the sun, which is what I was after. I was after the Renault Clio. You'll have to edit this bit out. The Renault Clio colour. But yeah, all the gaps. You know, the typical bodywork guy that he was really excellent. He's got all the gaps and all the lines just right, and that was, he spent months just sort of getting the bodywork prepped to where he wanted it, and yeah, so the result was a very good product. But yeah, I look forward to driving it.
Was it worth the wait?
I'm still waiting, so yeah, it definitely, yeah.
See, this car is really pretty, but you see, everything else that you've got is kind of sinister looking, deviant looking.
A bit ratty, yeah. This will be
This is the black sheep of the family, because it isn't a black sheep.
This would be the pretty girl, and the rest are quite rough looking. But I don't know, I quite like a rough look. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, to have a car that just commands the road and looks rough. It's just like, just get out of my way. You know what I mean? And that's the feeling I think we all get it. Just, you know, I'm coming through.
I've seen you deal a couple of cars. You had a Firebird, you sold it on, but really you're a Mopar man through and through.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
my mum and dad split when I was very young, 2.5, 3 years old. So I saw my dad regularly, but just mostly on Sundays, that sort of thing. But my mum was my mammy pops, as we say in the States. So your mum's your mum and your dad mostly. You know, my mum's great. But my dad took me for my driving tests or driving lessons. My very first driving lesson was in a Mopar. He had this 72 Charger, red, oxidized red, white vinyl seat, all torn up, a bit like this car. This is probably why I like this one. And the day of my driving test, he said to me, well, we'll go down the route first before we go, because you pick up the examiner, and the examiner gets in your car with you. And my dad was the supervisor in the back seat. So he said, we'll just do the route first. And he said, Rick, if they go down this road, he says, they're going to try and fail you. So just be prepared. You cannot do a 3-point turn on this road. You can do it in 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, whatever, but you cannot do it in 3. So anyways, we get this registry cop, a bit like traffic cops over here, you know, registry cop in the States, and he's sat in like Mr. Robot in the passenger seat, and we had the briefing about my dad can't say a peep, he's just got to just sit there. Well, we go down this road, yep, that's the road he's trying to fail me on. So my dad's like, yep, that's the road he's going to fail you on. He's just thinking, you know, I remembered in my head. So we're doing a 3-point turn, and of course, I'm looking over my right shoulder with a registry cop in the passenger seat, my dad behind him. And as I'm doing a 3-point turn and I'm reversing, if you hit the curb, you fail. And I'm just rolling, and my dad's on the back seat doing this. All quiet, and then just going, telling me when to stop. Anyway, long story short, I went back to my dad's house, passed my test. My dad was ever so proud of me, and you know, that was really, really lovely. And went home, and of course my dad lived separate to my mum, being divorced and all that. So I said, Dad, can I get a ride home now? And he said, why don't you drive yourself home? And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, I'm thinking logistically, how am I gonna return the car or whatever? So I'm driving myself home, Dad. I said, but how am I gonna get the car back? He says, no, it's yours. The car's yours. You can have it if you want it. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So first thing I did, I didn't even go home. I went and picked my friends up in my 72 Charger, you know, 16 and a half years old, you know, in this car. But oh my God, the smell, like I said, the flat hood, the white vinyl. Oh, you know, it was a clapped out car, but it was mine. And it was, my dad never gave me a lot in life, but he gave me that car. And that was, you know, that was special. And then some years later, my dad got terminally ill. And he had cancer and that, and he was towards the later stages in life, and I would call him from England and sort of like, hey Dad, you know, and have a chat with him for a couple hours on the phone or whatever. And I asked him the question. I said, Dad, what was your favorite car of all time? Now, my dad wasn't a Mopar guy. My dad liked anything and everything. And he said, Rick, he goes, I like my 69 Dodge Monaco. He goes, it had a super light in the grille, which I didn't know anything about at the time. But it was an extra light in the grille which shined ahead of your headlights, which kind of, because these old cars you could overrun your headlights with speed and that. And 69 Monaco, that was his favorite car. How it drove, everything about it. I don't know if it was Dad's involvement that made me so Mopar lover or whatever, but possibly. I think so. Thing is now, I didn't have any of these cars when Dad was here, and every now and then you feel in life like you want to say something to someone when they're already gone and you can't, and that's like kind of like, Dad, I'd love you to see my cars, you know, but he's not here to see them, you know, but you know, unless, you know, maybe he can see them, who knows, but yeah, it's quite sad, but yeah, it was, I got a love for the cars. Real love for the cars.
He's watching, man.
Yeah, we want you to hope.
Get up there and you'll tell him.
Yeah. I don't want to go too soon.
Oh yeah, no one wants to go too early. Later on in the series, we'll be back with Rick and one of his best friends, Martin Bingham. These two crazy cats have big fun collecting 2 newly imported vehicles that Rick just couldn't say no to. So keep a lookout for that. please click on the subscribe button. It's free to do so and helps us build up our audience. Also, please share this video with your friends on social media, and while you are there, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook to get new video alerts and extra content. And remember, check out talkamerican.com, and if you'd like, please post a comment underneath this video. We'd really appreciate it. What I really like about Rick is the way he's got some cool names for some of his cars, and I've taken inspiration from that for my Charger as well. There'll be more information about that in a future episode. Oh, and check out the description below this video where there'll be a link to Rick's UKMOPARS Facebook group. So if you want to join that, check it out. But for now, it's time to say goodbye, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.